Assalamu alaikum. It is Thursday. So we are about to start podcasting, my dears. Let me bring our Insta cousins on. Okay. So today we are talking about your post Ramadan plan. As you know, I am here let me fix my camera. Every Thursday. And we are creating a post Ramadan plan. Now, I decided to have this particular video about your 1 year transformation because everybody knows we generally enter Ramadan with some type of, ooh, I want to be really good at increasing my ibadah, but I also really want to lose weight. So, for those of you who did not, or who have a sort of habit of regaining the weight that you've lost during Ramadan, I am going to give you a 1 year plan. We are going to jump into the podcast. So, as you know, after this particular session, we are going to turn this into podcasts on all your favorite podcast listening platforms. I would like to thank everybody who have subscribed, listened, and shared my podcast. This week, we were actually number 17 on the top 20 most listened fitness podcasts in the US. So I am super excited about that. We were number one in Saudi Arabia, number one in Malaysia. So super excited. I hope you guys continue to listen. If you have not listened to the Fit Muslimah podcast, even though I'm live here, I had to give you some exclusive content only on podcast platforms. So go back and listen to the first 3 episodes if you'd like to know sort of how I got so passionate about health and wellness. So that is the Fit Muslimah podcast on all podcast platforms. So let me pull up my show notes here, and then we are going to dive into our. There we go. All right, y'all, let's record a podcast. You're listening to the Fit Muslimah podcast, where we discuss the interconnection between food, faith, and fitness. I'm your host, Mubaraka Ibrahim. This podcast, my media presence, my social media presence, and my weekly newsletter all focuses on the philosophy that physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is intertwined. The weakness of one weakens them all, and the strengthening of one strengthens them all. And this is why I have a team to edit and edit my podcast, because I got to go turn off the fan. Give me 2 seconds. I'm back. I told y'all it was live. It is the live recording of the podcast. So we have stuff like that happen, but that's okay. You guys can hang out with it. So let's do this again. All right. So we are going to re-record the intro. Ready? So also too, this is what podcasting is, right? So let's go. You're listening to the Fit Muslimah podcast, where we discuss the interconnection between food, faith, and fitness. I'm your host, Mubaraka Ibrahim. This podcast, my social media presence, and my weekly newsletter all focuses on the philosophy that physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is intertwined. The weakness of one weakens them all, and the strengthening of one strengthens them all. Welcome to episode 6 of the Fit Muslimah podcast. In this episode, we are going to lay out a step-by-step guide to losing weight and transforming your health, 40 days at a time. I also like to refer to this as the slow and steady health formula. Okay, I am not going to get into sort of the particulars too deep on each one of these habits. I'm going to give some general overall benefits, but this is sort of what I consider a plan for slow and steady health improvements. And I want you to follow along. Of course, feel free to save this, feel free to come back to it, to refer to it, because I am going to literally break down step by step how you can transform your health by next Ramadan, inshallah. So, first of all, I want to precursor this, which I think I should with each one of my podcasts, is that this is for informational purposes only. It is not meant to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. If you have a diagnosed health problem, please consult your healthcare provider or medical doctor before you engage in any changes in your diet and exercise. That is a general disclaimer that I'm going to have to continue and remind myself to give people, because oftentimes uh, we tend to sort of like want to get off of medication or cure ourselves very sort of haphazardly now that we have social media and we have things like podcasts and YouTube and we apply everything. But if you are diagnosed with an illness, please make dietary and exercise changes based on where you are in your health. And this brings us to our first point: health. What exactly is health? Being healthy is relative based on where you are in your health and wellness journey, as well as what your particular goals are, right? So when someone tells me, well, I want to feel healthy and fit, that means something very different depending on who you are, what your history are, what your current health status is. Now, for today's podcast, I would like to specifically make the assumption that we are talking about the fact that you want to lose weight, that you want to break a sugar addiction, which most of us have, that you want to decrease inflammation, and you want to improve metabolic health. So each one of these habits that I'm going to describe to you that you can incorporate throughout the year is aimed to do just that. All right. So here is the structure we are going by. The structure we are going by is we are going to take habits 40 days at a time. That means that you're going to focus on one habit for 40 consecutive days. Now, here is why I call it the slow and steady health transformation formula. This is appropriate for people who may have a hard time sort of incorporating several things at once, that you may not necessarily have a health coach or or an accountability partner, and you really want to start somewhere, but not just start somewhere, but start somewhere that's going to get you to the next level, right? So this is the slow and steady approach. Again, it will take you a year. We focus on 40 days at a time for several reasons. Number one, the 40-day time mark has many religious significance, right? The Prophet Musa alayhi salam he went and he retreated for 40 days, right? Every cell in our body on average replenishes itself in about 40 days. It's the average of a cellular turnover, right? We have many significant things that happens within a 40-day time period. The other interesting thing about the 40-day time mark is that we often hear that it takes 21 days to change a habit, right? That's actually not exactly true all the time. So, when researchers actually looked into how long does it actually take someone to actually change a habit and where did this come from? So, the earliest time that this has been mentioned was in a book that was written in the 1970s from a plastic surgeon who noticed that it took his patients about 21 days to get used to any plastic surgery changes. New nose, new chin, I lift, things like that, right? And we sort of just kept repeating it and regurgitating it. And so when researchers actually tested different types of habits and how long did it take for a activity to become habitual, meaning that you do it without thinking, without planning, that it becomes almost second nature, right? And what they found was that it depends on what you're actually doing. Things that takes more physical effort actually takes longer to make a habit. Some things can be incorporated and made habitual with 21 consecutive days, but some things can take as much as a year, right? But on average, between 40 and 50 days for most habits, it can become habitual, right? And so when I say it depends on the energy, when you have a habit like, I am going to drink water every day, right? That actually is a low barrier of entry, getting water, drinking it. But if you tell yourself, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, that is actually a higher barrier of entry. Number one, it takes more physical energy, it takes planning, it takes effort. You have to get there, there's a lot of things that go into it. So it has a larger physical barrier of entry. So we want to use things that have lower barriers of entry, meaning that it's easier for you to incorporate. And more importantly, it is effective. How do you get more bang for your buck? All right. We are basing our plan today on 365 days, right? There are 365 days in a year. In 365 days, we are breaking up each section, not into months, but into 40-day periods, right? So you're going to literally get a calendar out and you're going to look and you're going to mark off roundabout every 6 weeks. You're going to keep a habit, which means keep doing that activity and only that activity for 40 consecutive days. You can literally create a little grid and then check off as you go along. What is the very first habit we want to incorporate? The very first habit that we want to incorporate is drinking water. That is a low barrier of entry, but yet it yields high results. How much water should you drink? So, our first 40 days, our goal is to drink half our body weight in pounds in ounces of water every day. Now, if you are a person who says, well, I hate water, I don't like water, this is why we take 40 days to get to the goal and be consistent in doing it, right? So, water is incorporated into your diet is going to do several things. Number one, obviously, it's going to keep you hydrated, right? Number two, research actually shows that when you drink water, your metabolism increases immediately when you drink it and can last 30 minutes to an hour. So, you drink water, it physically increases the rate in which your body is burning calories simply by drinking water. Again, low barrier entry, but high yield. You want to start incorporating water. And when I say water, I mean pure water. Like, we're not incorporating, oh, well, watermelon has water in it. No, just plain water. I don't even want you to get as complicated as, does it need to be filtered water or distilled water or alkaline water? Here is your rule. Water is any water-based substance that does not add calories or chemicals. Okay? Water-based substance does not add calories or chemicals. So, your tea with a tablespoon of honey, don't consider it water. You just added calories. Seltzer water or club soda, water-based, no calories, no chemicals. Okay, you get the rule, right? Does not include if you make your protein shake with water. Nope, you've just added calories to it. Does not include you took water and you added some Crystal Light to it. Nope, you just added chemicals to it. Doesn't include it. Your goal is to drink half your body weight in ounces of water every single day. And the way that you're going to incorporate that is, sorry for all my people outside of the US, you're going to have to use Google and calculate. So, if you're using kgs, if you're using stones, convert it into pounds, right? And let's say you weigh 200 pounds. That means your goal is to make it a habit of drinking 100 ounces of water every single day. Now, here is the little asterisk. As you lose weight, you can drink less water. Ah, see how that works? Now, when you're drinking your 100 ounces of water a day, you want to slowly get to that point. So, if currently you drink maybe 2 glasses of water a day and you're like, that's 16 ounces, I can't drink 100. I don't expect you to drink 100 ounces of water tomorrow because it's probably not going to be sustainable. Remember, we are incorporating habits every 40 days. So, what that means is, hey, you're drinking 2 glasses of water every single day. This week, your goal is to drink 3 glasses, right? Break up how much you need to get to 100 ounces a day and get to that maybe by 10 or 20 ounces at a time, added each week along the way. Now it's been incorporated into your lifestyle, right? So, drinking water is going to be the base of where you are going to start your transformation. We got that down. All right. So, that's number one. Number two is you want to make sure that you are drinking your water. Nope, I'm sorry, this is a note to number one. If you want to make sure that you are drinking your water in small portions, don't sit down and drink, you know, a whole 64 ounces of water at one time. That's the reason why people frequent the bathroom when they start increasing the amount of water that they're drinking, because your body physically cannot hold that amount of water. As for hydration purposes, your body can only process about 10 to 20 ounces of water every hour. They actually did this research on marathon runners while they were running a marathon. And they wanted to see how much water can the human body actually use and absorb each hour. And during a marathon, obviously sitting at your desk working is not marathon. During a marathon runners actually was able to use, meaning your cells can absorb it, your muscles can absorb it, your body is actually using it for hydration, about 20 ounces every hour. So that's the main reason why you want to break that up. You want to make sure that you're not sitting down and you're just drinking a whole bunch of water, because it's going to go right through you and you're going to be right in the bathroom. Now, you will probably increase your frequency to the bathroom, but it would be much less if you're able to break that water up throughout your day. So that is our water habit, right? Second habit, you gotta move. Gotta get up and move, right? I'm not even going to ask you to join a gym or do a fitness class or lift weights, whatever you like. Because again, this is a general guide. This is the slow and steady guide. You want to commit yourself to getting up and moving every single day. That is every single day. And I know you're like, oh, I don't want to do a workout every day. I'm not saying doing a workout every day. Commit yourself to 30 minutes every single day. You can go for a walk. You can do a fitness class. You can lift some weights. You can play volleyball with your kids, play soccer with the guys, whatever you decide to do. 30 minutes every day. That is not altered by you doing 2 hours on Saturday. You have to get in the habit of moving every single day. And this is an essential part of your plan, right? Don't go on to changing your diet. Don't go on to taking supplements. Don't do anything else until you have made a habit out of movement. And here is why. Movement is what we call a snowball habit. That means once you start moving, you will automatically begin to incorporate other healthy habits without even realizing it, right? When we think about weight loss and we think about health, oftentimes we think about it in a way where we're like, okay, can you give me a diet pill? Can you tell me how to eat? Right? Obviously, nutrition is 90% of what I do with people when it comes to health and weight loss. But what we find out is that you will be much more consistent. You will be much more successful in your reaching your goals if you made movement a habit. So here's how they tested this theory. Movement becomes a snowball habit. They took two groups of smokers, right? People who smoke cigarettes. They took one group and they told them, we just want to know how many cigarettes did you smoke a day, right? Nothing else, no instructions, no anything. And we're going to call you back in 12 weeks and we're going to ask you how many cigarettes you smoke a day. Okay. They took the other group and they said, we want to know how many cigarettes do you smoke a day? Now, over the next 12 weeks, we want you to walk for 30 minutes, 3 times a week. Just go for a walk. No other instructions, how fast, how slow, hills, no hills, just walk for 30 minutes a day. They brought that, then they brought both groups back after 12 weeks. The group who had been given no instructions for lifestyle changes, on average, smoked the same amount of cigarettes. They did not try to quit. The group who were instructed to walk 3 times a week, they actually had more participants to quit smoking, incorporate healthier habits like eating more vegetables and drinking more water. They began to incorporate healthy habits. When they asked of the habits of the people who did not get instructions, hadn't changed much, right? Now, they told them to walk 3 times a day. They didn't tell them to drink more water, but they started drinking more water. They didn't tell them to eat more vegetables, but they started eating more vegetables. Now, this type of research have been done in several ways. And what we find out is basically, if you start working out, it would make you want to eat more vegetables. But eating vegetables doesn't make you want to work out. That's a simpler way to put it. So, movement is going to be absolutely essential to your transformation. Start off with something that is doable, that you don't need any extra instructions. So I'm not telling you to go and join a gym or hire a trainer, right? This is a simple sort of, how do I get up and move? You want to get up and move really every single day. Now, if you decide to join a program or a gym and you want to actually do a structured workout on several of those days, by all means. But even on the days that you are not doing your kickboxing workout or whatever you decide to do, you need to get up and start moving, right? Our body is physically made to move, and we begin to atrophy when we don't. So, movement is going to be your second 40 days. So we have water. Now we have movement. All right. So we are going to flip back into nutrition. Ready for habit 3? Habit 3. Your habit 3 is removing added sugar. And this is probably going to be most people's hardest thing. It's super simple, but many people struggle with this. Our most used and overused drug in the world is not coffee. It is not antidepressants. It is sugar. Sugar is an addictive substance. Our brain literally lights up in the same areas as if we are taking cocaine, like literally when they look at brain scans. So, how do we start removing added sugar? Here is, again, your rule. So we're on your third 40 days. right? First 40 days is going to be your water. Your second 40 days is going to be your movement. Now, your third 40 days, you are removing added sugar. Here is an important note. You do not stop that thing after 40 days. We are stacking habits on top of each other. So, first 40 days, you're drinking water. Second 40 days, drinking water has become a habit now. Now you're moving every day. So you're drinking water and you're moving. Now, your third 40 days, this is when we are now incorporating can be, depending on where your diet is now, can be some major dietary changes. All right. When I say no added sugar, that means that if any type of sugar is shown that it's added on the nutritional label, or you add it to the food, you do not eat it. That means no honey in your tea. That means no syrup on your food. That means anything that has that. So, yeah, you're going to have to give up the baklava. You're going to have to give it up. All of that honey and syrup and stuff, you're going to have to give it up. So, why no added sugar? Number one, it's going to do a couple of things. It is certainly going to improve the quality of food that you're eating, right? I don't even have to tell you don't eat processed foods because 90% of processed foods have added sugar. So if you flip your food over and look at the nutritional label, you're not looking at carbs, you're not looking at fat, you're not looking at protein, you're literally looking for one little line. Most Western countries have that line on nutrition label that says the amount of added sugar, right? We're not eliminating all sugar, right? So fruit has sugar. Yes, you can have fruit, right? We want this to be easy. Remember, we're doing low barrier of entry habits with high yield. When we remove added sugar, we are going to go more towards things that are whole foods, things that are going to be nutrient dense, right? So, if, for example, let's take an example of you have oatmeal, right? Instant oatmeal is probably going to have added sugar in it. But if you create your own oatmeal by using whole oats, right? If you need some sweetener in there, you can add some strawberries or some raspberries or some blueberries, some type of blueberries or fruit on the top, right? Now you still can have your oatmeal, but now you have a whole food version of the instant process that you had. So the no added sugar, it is going to work with you on many different levels. It is going to decrease the amount of processed foods. And you don't have to say, oh, I'm not eating processed foods, right? You literally like, my only concern is, does it have added sugar in it? Did you put sugar in that? Did you put honey in that? Did you put syrup in that? Anything, any type of sugar. Yes, it includes coconut sugar and palm sugar and all these other sugars that they've made up now, right? No added sugar for 40 consecutive days. So now you are on habit 3. Now you've added water, you've added movement, and now you're making a major dietary change and you are removing any added sugar from your diet, right? So that is going to really get you into that next phase. All right. So those are going to be your base habits. We're going to hold on to those for a little bit because now we want to move into lifestyle habits. What is the most effective lifestyle habit on your weight, on insulin resistance, on improved brain capacity, What one thing can we do that will improve all of those on your metabolic health? It will improve all of those in one sweep. The most important thing for us to incorporate now is sleep. Yes. I'm guessing that you probably thought I was going to say something dramatic, but no. Sometimes just those simple base things is what we need to get ourselves back in balance. So, our fourth habit that we're incorporating is going to be getting sleep. Now, I do have a plan of doing an entire podcast just on sleep because it's a podcast in itself. There's books and much research about it, but I try to condense it right into digestible forms. So, your third thing, and I hope you are writing this down or saving this video or sharing this video in order for you to remember each one of these every 40 days. The important thing that I want you to remember is one thing at a time. We are stacking habits, right? So now we're exercising, right? We're 30 minutes every day being active. We've improved the amount of water that we're drinking. We're still doing that. Remember, we're not stopping after 40 days. We're stacking habits, right? Now we want to start getting enough sleep. So, what is enough sleep, right? On average, people, men and women need between 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day, right? And I know it's going to be so many people, especially moms, are like, "Oh, I wish I could get 7 hours, 9 hours. That would be a dream, right? But we really need to begin to incorporate better sleep habits into our daily lives. So there's three things that I'm going to talk about specifically, right? For this particular habit. Number 1, I want you to get more sleep if you're getting less than 7 hours, right? Number 2, I want you to get more consistent sleep, right? The time that you are going to bed. And number 3, we are going to aim for better quality sleep, right? Those are the three most important sort of linchpins of making sleep a health transformational habit. So, 1, get more sleep. How do we get more sleep, right? For some people, this may require a few life structuring things, putting the kids to bed earlier, making sure that you don't have unfolded clothes on the bed. I've been a mom too, right? Your bed is ready for you, right? You want to make sure that you are getting enough sleep and you're going to bed on time. So that may mean that, you can't stay up till 11 o'clock watching TV or scrolling on social media. I'm not even going to give you a pass for watching my videos. And I want you to watch my videos, right? I want you to engage with me online. But you need to get to sleep, right? If you have a difficult time falling asleep, then consider creating a bedtime routine, right? Let's go back to when we were kids. When we were kids, right? We knew when it was time for bed, right? And if you have kids, you do this now. And it's almost a habit for them where they know that when it's time for bed, they're going to take a shower, they're going to brush their teeth, they're going to lay in a bed, they're going to choose a book, you're going to read them a book, and they're going to either fall asleep while you're reading the book or fall asleep after you're done reading the book, right? They aren't just doing this because you're making them do this. They're actually doing it because once it becomes a habit, it actually begins to send signals, both hormonal, mental, physical, throughout the body at the same time every day. And that's triggered by an activity, right? So if reading a bedtime story is how your child falls asleep, then you will often find that if they don't get their bedtime story, they actually have a harder time going to sleep. As adults, we actually function the very same way. If you create habits around your bedtime routine, it will actually trigger your environment, will trigger your body into going to sleep. But again, remember, we are creating habits. So if you're normally used to watching TV at 11 o'clock, day one, you might not fall asleep at 11 o'clock. That's why we're doing this for 40 days. We want to literally sit down, look at our calendar, decide what time you go to bed, right? Me personally, I actually have a bedtime alarm on my phone that goes off ding, ding, ding. It is time for you to get ready for bed. My husband and my friends tease me, but you know, I have to remind myself that sleep is a health habit. And I can't emphasize that enough. Sleep is a health habit. So, you want to make sure that you have a bedtime for yourself as an adult. Have a bedtime, have a wake up time. The more consistent you can be in that bedtime, the better it is for you, right? Again, this is low barrier of entry. I'm not telling you what time to go to bed. I'm not telling you what time you should wake up. What I am saying is look at your life and your lifestyle and create a consistent bedtime routine and bedtime, right? Now, of course, I'm going to repeat to you what you've probably heard everywhere. You should turn off the TV, get off social media, turn off your phone before you get ready to get in bed. At least 30 minutes, preferably an hour before it is your bedtime. So if you decide that you're going to bed at 10, at 9 o'clock, shut everything down, right? Number one, it's not only going to stimulate you and make it harder for you to go to sleep. When you are exposed to the light on our computers and on our phone, it is actually going to delay melatonin, which is a hormone that helps you sleep. It delays the onset of it, right? And I'm not on that train of, hey, just get blue light glasses, right? Because when we are on social media, when we are watching TV, our brain is being stimulated with images and sounds. And so it's not as easy as just don't look at the light, right? You're actually being fed things that is stimulating your brain. So shut it down, right? We are doing that for 40 consecutive days. Now, at this point, I'm absolutely sure that you will begin to feel dramatically different. You will have more energy. You will have probably lost a few pounds. And so I can guess, I'm going to take a wild guess that you're probably saying, okay, if I'm doing all of these things, then what happens to the bad habits that I already have? So here is the hikmah, I should say, or the wisdom behind this slow and steady approach. This slow and steady approach is not just stacking health habits, it's also crowding out bad habits. So it's a technique that's called crowding, right? I used to use this technique with clients who were morbidly obese and had food addiction, right? So I worked with people who had food addiction. Yes, food can actually be an addiction. It is not made up, just like you can be addicted to alcohol or cigarettes, right? Food can actually become an addiction for people. Um, and it is even more difficult for those people to not eat something, to eliminate food, right? So, the best thing for us to do is to incorporate foods that will crowd out the things that are not good for you, right? So, if you are not telling yourself, I can't have fried food, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, but instead telling yourself, I'm going to eat vegetables, I'm going to drink water, right? our stomach is not going to expand that much where we're going to eat all of the healthy things and the unhealthy. We'll get to that in the next few habits, right? So, you are going to want to make sure that you're doing these things on a consistent basis, and you're going to find that other things that are not so healthy for you is going to start sort of shedding off by the wayside, right? So again, if you're not allowing yourself to have anything with added sugar in it, then it's going to automatically eliminate the processed foods, right? So, as we begin to incorporate each one of these habits, I don't want you to focus on the things that you're going to stop doing. I'm not even going to tell you to stop doing too many things because as you begin to incorporate all of these healthier habits, you're going to automatically reduce and eliminate some of the unhealthy ones. All right. Now, we're at our fourth habit, right? So fourth habit, we're about 6 months into the year. So the next question, and this is an interesting one. Well, if I'm eating a bunch of whole foods and I'm exercising every single day and I'm drinking water and I'm sleeping properly, like, do I ever get a cheat day? Do I ever get to go back and just enjoy cotton candy and popcorn? Hmm, that is a great question, me asking me. So, the answer to that is you want to make sure that your habits are 90-10, right? If you have a goal and you want to stick to that goal and be successful in achieving that goal, you need to go with a 90-10 rule. There's no such thing as 100%. No matter what type of lifestyle that you lead, no matter what type of diet you say you follow, no matter how much you exercise, there are going to be times when you're on vacation, when you have holiday, when you have birthday, where you are not as strict with yourself. Now, what does that mean? I am a type A personality, and so I throw numbers at you because I really, if you're like me, I just need to know how much, how many, and what, right? Just give me the what, how, and how many. How much, how many, how long. I think that's the best way of saying it. I am a how much, how many, how long. I'm type A personality. So if your goal is to have a 90-10 philosophy, there are 365 days of the year. That means 36 of those days you have vacation, you have birthdays, you have holidays. Doing that 36 days out of the entire year is not going to sabotage your health. Now, the problem comes in is when it becomes sort of a snowball effect in the opposite direction, right? So if you know when I eat ice cream and pizza, there's no going back, I'm going to eat it for a week, then maybe you shouldn't eat ice cream and pizza until you're able to control yourself, right? Be very strategic, right? You got 36 days. Are you going on vacation for a week and you want to sort of enjoy yourself for that entire week? Or are you going on vacation and you're like, I can be consistent while I'm on vacation and maybe take 1 or 2 days because it's a wedding or, whatever you're doing. Be very strategic with the days that you are taking off, right? So we're halfway through the year. We're 4 habits in, right? That means that we have 4 more habits to go. All right. We got water. We have started to move. Now we've removed added sugar, right? We're stacking these habits and we are sleeping, right? So important. Gotta get the sleep. Sleep is a health habit. So this is how important sleep is to your physical health. When you are sleep deprived, it actually increases insulin resistance. They've done research study where they have took healthy individuals, sleep deprived them, give them 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, Within a day or two, these healthy individuals had blood glucose levels equivalent to if they had type 2 diabetes. If you already have insulin resistance, PCOS, type 2 or type 1 diabetes, and you are suffering from sleep deprivation, it is going to be much harder for you to control your blood glucose levels, right? Even healthy individuals, much harder for you to control your blood glucose levels. When you are sleep deprived, the very next day, your appetite increases. You're more likely to not just eat more food, but eat more high carbohydrate and high sugar foods, right? And so when people are not sleeping well and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't stop myself from eating sugar. I can't stop myself from overeating. I know I shouldn't eat this, but I don't have any self-control." It may not necessarily be that you don't have self-control. It may be you're just not getting enough sleep. Try going to bed. That might be helpful. All right, give it a try. So, sleep is a health habit. You're going to hear me say that very often. All right, so what is the next thing that we need to incorporate? Now, I'm going to take you back to a food habit, right? Remember, we're doing low barrier of entry, high yield. So, the next habit we want to incorporate is to increase the amount of vegetables that we are eating, right? Vegetables at every single meal, right? I haven't gotten into meal frequency yet. We're still working on the quality of the foods that we are eating. All right? Vegetables at every single meal, right? Particularly above ground vegetables. So if it grows above ground, I want you to incorporate lots of it, right? Things that grow below ground, you can still incorporate it, but take preference to above ground vegetables, right? So, taking preference to above ground vegetables. Taking preference to above ground vegetables means uh greens, mustard greens, spinach, collards, kale. It means eggplants. It means yellow squash, zucchini. It means all types of squashes that grow above ground. Below ground vegetables are things like beets, carrots, parsnips, right? The only asterisk that I'm going to make to this is potatoes. I don't get along with potatoes. They are very high on a glycemic index. They send your blood glucose level up really high. Unless you're practicing for a marathon, there's no need for you to incorporate potatoes into your diet for most people, right? So I'm going to make one little asterisk, right? All vegetables, potatoes is a starch. All vegetables, but potatoes is a starch. You put that in the category of rice and pasta. All right. So when I say incorporate now vegetables at every meal, what is one meal that we are least likely to incorporate vegetables? Actually, breakfast, right? And here is an asterisk. You're learning sort of like the way that I look at food. Fruits and vegetables are not the same category. When I say incorporate vegetables, I don't mean incorporate more fruit. I mean incorporate more vegetables. Okay. Every nutrient that any fruit contained, you can get that same nutrient in a vegetable with less sugar, right? And the reason why I say this is in general, for our purposes, for this particular plan, we are not demonizing fruit. But what I find on a practical level is that when people remove added sugar to their diet, they sort of substitute it with even more fruit and the sweetest fruits that they can find. Sort of defeats the whole point. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to literally try to incorporate a vegetable that is not substituted with a fruit in every single meal. All right? So, that's your habit 5. Now, your habit 6 is going to be eat less often. Eat less often. Okay? Now, this could have easily been habit 1, but I save it to habit 6 for a reason, because I need you to start feeling the difference in your body when you are incorporating these health habits. I need these health habits that we've incorporated before, they will begin to help you to balance your hormones, particularly your leptin and ghrelin hormones, so you aren't as hungry all the time, that you aren't snacking all the time. So, habit number 7, eat less often. Eat less often. I'm going to say that one more time. Eat less often. I'm not telling you to eat less yet. Eat less often. That means that you do not need, there is literally no need. If you are over 5 years old, there's no need for you to have a snack. Eat your food. Okay? I know I'm talking to adults here, so that was meant for you. And it's a habit that we should begin to incorporate into our children's lives so that they aren't where we are trying to get back to health, right? Snacking is not only unnecessary, but it actually leads to insulin resistance, right? If you are having a snack and you're eating something every 2 hours, your blood glucose never gets a chance to lower for you to be able to have the benefits of having a lower glucose level. Chronically high blood glucose is what leads to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So, if you're eating breakfast at 9 a.m. and then you're having some fruit or chips or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. If it includes a carbohydrate, your insulin is going up. I don't care if that carb comes from fruit or it comes from potato chips. Still, your blood glucose is coming up. It's not getting a chance to lower. And you're eating that at 10 or eating that at 11. And then you're eating lunch at 1. And then you're having another snack at 3. And then you're having dinner at 6. And then you're having a nighttime dessert at 9, right? Literally all day long, you have chronically high blood glucose levels. You have to give your body time to react, digest, and metabolize your food and lower your blood glucose. So, you are going to begin with removing snacks from your diet and your lifestyle. You're going to eat a meal, right? Preferably, right? This is when I'm going to incorporate some rules. You need to go, I'm not telling you how many meals to eat. I'm going to give you 2 structures around this. Number 1, go 12 hours without eating anything. You decide your own 12 hours built into your lifestyle. It has to be consecutive and it has to be 12 consecutive hours. So if you eat breakfast at 7 a.m., your last bite should go in your mouth at 7 p.m. If you eat breakfast at 9 a.m., the last bite of food that goes in your mouth should be at 9 p.m., right? This 12-hour blood glucose rest is going to allow your body to process your insulin, decrease your insulin and blood glucose. And while it has that decrease, you have lots of beneficial things that are going on. It is going to be anti-inflammatory. It is going to work on reversing insulin resistance and improving metabolic health. It helps for you to actually, your body, once your insulin level drops, your body is actually ever better able to metabolize cholesterol, lower your blood pressure. There's many, many health benefits, right? So we're not even talking about incorporating an intermittent fasting, 16-8, or going 20 hours or doing a one meal a day. I want you to begin with simply 12 hours, 40 consecutive days. You stop eating at 9 p.m. You don't put anything in your mouth to 9 a.m. 40 consecutive days. Now, what you eat in between there still falls in the habits that we have already incorporated. We're drinking half our body weight in water, right? We should be 8, 9 months into it by now, right? We're still not having any added sugar foods, right? We're 8, 9 months. We're still moving. We're still getting enough sleep, and we're incorporating vegetables at every meal, right? So we're eating less often, which means we're not snacking, and we're going 12 consecutive hours with no food. How you do that is up to you. If you're someone who, oh, I work the night shift, so I actually go to work at 9 a.m., then you incorporate that night into your eating schedule when you are active. You always want to incorporate the time that you're not eating with your sleep, right? So we're not sort of opposite. We're not using the opposite schedule for our non eating time. Decide what time you're going to bed. You should have an established bedtime, right? We're 6 months, 9 months into the established bedtime. Now, count backwards 2 hours before that and stop eating. So I'll give you a sample schedule. Let's say you decide that you are going to go to bed at 11 p.m., right? That means that you need to stop eating at 9 p.m. Takes an average about 2 hours for most foods to digest inside of your system. You want your stomach to actually not be digesting food when you are sleeping. So 9 p.m., you stop eating. 11 p.m., you go to bed. 9 a.m., you have breakfast, right? That's not so hard. You can do that. I believe in you. Absolutely, you can do that. So, the very last habit that is going to complete your year of transformation is going to be stress management. Now, I know that this is an entire podcast in itself, but I want to give you some really easy tips on how we can start doing this and why it's so essential to your health. So, stress management is, and notice I did not say eliminate stress. It is literally impossible to eliminate stress. I don't care if you live in a remote village in Africa or you live in London underneath the Eiffel Tower, right? Everybody is going to have stress. When we're babies, we're stressed because we're not sure if we're going to eat, where our next meal is going to come from, or even though the mom is still right there, right? Or the diaper is dirty. All of that is symbols of stress. It's going to trigger a stress response in children. When we're old, we may be concerned about, are we going to go into a nursing home? Do we have a kid that's going to take care of us? We may be contemplating what the ACRA is like, right? There's always going to be a level of stress somewhere inside of our life. No matter where we are, no matter how old we are, from the time we're born to the time we die, we experience stress. Now, the key is we have to learn how to mitigate it and stress and then come down off of stress. The problem that we have today is that just like we are constantly eating and we have chronically high insulin level, we are constantly consuming things and having experiences that gives us chronically high stress levels, right? Which, by the way, also triggers high insulin levels. Cortisol, which is released when we're stressed, actually is a trigger for insulin. So people who have insulin resistance, such as PCOS, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes, even type 1 diabetes, when they're going through a stressful circumstance in their life, they will find it much harder to manage insulin, blood glucose levels and insulin, much harder, because the cortisol is triggering the rise in insulin. It's a hormonal response. So, how do we mitigate that? Now, one of the best ways that I find to physically mitigate stress is with breath work, right? Obviously, there are many different ways for you to mitigate stress, be it from a religious standpoint, from a psychological standpoint, from a physical standpoint, is where I am going to approach this because it is something that everybody can incorporate and it's really easy. Pay attention to your breath. Now, this is an entire course, literally. I took it. But for today's purposes, I want to leave you with two things when it comes to breath work. Number one, when you are doing breath work, it is the easiest way for you to decrease stress because it is a mental detour from the stress. One of the biggest misconceptions that we have is that we have the ability to multitask. Human beings do not have the ability to multitask. We have the ability to switch between tasks quickly, but we do not have the ability to multitask. Our brain literally does not have the capacity to do two things at once. For people who say, I'm a great multitasker, you are a great switcher. So you can go from one task to the next very quickly. Now, this actually works to our advantage once you understand it, because when we are stressed, right, about a situation, a bill that's due, a kid that's acting up in school, a relationship that's having issues, right, it is taking up mental capacity. Our brain is thinking about that. The best way for us to switch all of the physiological effects of that stress, right? So, stress is happening. We're thinking about that stressful situation, right? Kid got in trouble in school. You've been warning him, you've been telling him, he's not listening, right? And you're thinking about that, right? All of the hormonal effects of stress is happening, right? And just as a side note, since we are in such a social media world, the same sort of stress response happen when you're like having keyboard wars on social media. It's not worth it. Save your health, right? Don't be thinking about the comment that somebody posted underneath your post or that you responded to and you're in the shower, right? And you're like, when I get out the shower, go to Facebook and I'm going to tell her that it ain't worth it. All right. You want to make sure that you are able to sort of release that stress. And the way that we release it is shifting our brain focus. Breath work is the easiest way to do that because it's very physical, right? We can literally feel our breath go in and out, our chests rise and fall, our stomach rise and fall, right? Our lungs expand and come in. Because it is very physical, it is an easier thing for you to sort of shift your focus to. So, in terms of your stress level, when you find yourself in a stressful situation, literally think of 5 breaths, right? Hopefully, the world is not going to fall apart if you take 5 breaths just to focus on your breath, right? You want to actually close your eyes, feel the breath, the air going into your nose, and the air coming out of your lips. You're physically trying to feel it, right? 5 breaths. That's one technique. Second technique, which I think is going to be really important and an important note for a later podcast when we talk about breath work, is going to be when we think of using our breath for relaxation, most people have it backwards. They think that I need to breathe fresh air to relax myself. Breathing fresh air outside can relax you because of the environment that you're in, but not because of the fresh air. Now, we have a sympathetic nervous system and we have a parasympathetic nervous system, right? So, what we want to do is we want to, when we are in a stress state, our sympathetic nervous system is really high. The opposite of that, when we need to relax, we need to activate our parasympathetic nervous system. The way that we activate our parasympathetic nervous system is literally holding our breath by allowing our carbon dioxide to build up enough that it actually triggers a parasympathetic response. So, when you can do a controlled breath of inhale, literally counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to inhale again for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold on to that breath. We're allowing the carbon dioxide to build up, right? We're allowing it to build up. That is triggering a parasympathetic stress relaxation response. You are going to blow out for 5 count. Now, this, which is also called a triangle breath, you can extend it depending on your lung capacity, right? You can do a 8 count in each direction. You can do a 10 count in each direction. So it has a lot of variations to it. I just want to give you sort of like a baseline of what we need to start with. So those are your habits that you are stacking over this next year. Make sure that you've written it down, that you save this video or podcast or wherever you're listening to my voice at, so that you can incorporate them into your lifestyle as health habits every 40 days. Now, I believe I left several days, probably about a 40-day mark out. I believe we did 8 a task, but we got 36 cheat days. We don't want to fill those up, right? That means your 36 cheat days, or what we like to call your flex days, because you're just being flexible, right? Those are 36 days where you may not get out to move for 30 minutes, right? You may want to have a piece of cake that has added sugar into it. You may, not drink all of your water on those days, right? So you got 36 days where you can be flexible and you would have completed the year with a 90-10 health focus. So those are your 40-day chunks of pyramid habits for a slow and steady health transformation over the next year. I hope it was beneficial for you, and I hope you continue to join me every week, every Thursday, here on social media. And you can listen to this in podcast format wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google Play. Please go and listen and subscribe, comment, and rate. We would love to get our podcast number 1 in the US. We're number 17 right now in the US for fitness podcasts. Would love to see that go to number 1. Continue to listen wherever you are. We were number 1 in Saudi, number 1 in Malaysia. I believe we were number 2 in Nigeria. Thank you, my peoples. So listen to the Fit Muslima podcast wherever you find, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. So I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. And you can find me on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at Fit Muslima, to join the conversation. I will talk to you soon. Assalamu alaikum.